But the only reason I come on is because I've got something to talk about, or something that's been like happening in the comics, you know, media, or stuff that's been chatted about in comics social media more than anything else. And as pertains to my thinking and my ideas and concepts about what's going on. So, giving a bit of my opinion. Sometimes I don't come on because I think I'm just repeating the same crap, right? Same, everybody else is doing the same thing and talking about the same thing, and I don't want to be like that. I want to talk about things that are interesting in a way that I can give my own personal views on it, because it has to do with me, right? Uh, yeah. So the title of the show, of course, Naomi, welcome, is about. It's good to do with AI, the money around indie comics, the foreign exchange rates, and how yeah. Well, this is basically got to do with how there's people out there who don't understand foreign rates, right? Uh, this is going to be me and you talking, but welcome anyway. So I've got two topics today. One of them is about like the foreign exchange rates and how people don't really understand how the American dollar works in regards to how everybody else's money works, right? And so I was going to do some art and chat and take a relaxed thing about it. And so what's happening is AI, for me, I think, is going to affect how people, which people don't understand, especially a lot of Americans don't understand, right? Especially because America is such a huge place, and comics is a huge place in America. And you can think about that as an overarching thing. Outside of America, the biggest thing is manga, and that's because for the last 20 years, anime has basically dominated every Gen Y and Gen Z's entertainment, right? And you don't have, you can do all the research you want, but that's the obvious truth, right? Because in my day, right, as a Gen Z, right, I grew up on Hulk, I grew up on Wonder Woman, we grew up on X-Men in the 90s, we got Batman and all that. However, Gen Y basically grew up on Dragon Ball Z, Naruto. So when I opened my shop in 2014, I had no clue what Dragon Ball Z was or Naruto, because I was all about Wolverine, Punisher, Batman, and such. And so that's happening is now with AI, anybody can basically do anything when it comes to art. And so there's no sort of like, okay, there's a quality or something. So you can take someone who's been doing them for like 10, 20 years, whatever, and puts a comic out, but no name, and so they get no nothing out there, right? However, you get somebody with an AI book out, and suddenly 20K, which is what which I noticed, and I saw last year when I was looking into this. I'm thinking like, well, how come this is having such an effect on people? It's because people are used to like Dragon Ball Z, all right, that art form. And you can say, well, there's a lot of amazing art form in manga, and there is some amazing quality art styles in manga that fully blow Dragon Ball Z and Naruto out the window, right? When it comes to the art itself of manga and the way that the manhwa and manhua, right, out of China, manhua, Manhua, out of China, manhwa out of Korea, which is Manwha, right? And then I've got manga, right, out of Japan. Now that's basically because I'm someone who's been, who has been in the scene, I guess, in the sense of like since like, 2007, right? When it comes to when I started to look at doing art and talking to artists around the world to work with me, or people that just saw what I was doing and said, hey, I'd like to do something with you. So way back then, I put out, I was, when I started doing This Lady Incredible, right? It was in about 2007 Christmas when I came up with the idea of doing it for my niece, because I thought, oh, if I'm going to do a comic book, let's do something that's meaningful to me. And, that's not just another superhero comic, but also where it came from. And that was I had been sitting in a church at that point, and about 4 years earlier, down in Invercargill, the bottom of where I live, right? Like, where I live is Northland, and Invercargill is Southland, where I was doing my 3 years of film study. And so while I was down there, when I first got there, I was a Christian, right? So, you know, used to go to church, was married into the church. Well, not married in the church, married a girl who was a, you know, who was a Methodist. And so we went down to study. She went to do IT, and I went to do filmmaking because that was something I was interested in, because I'd come out of like about almost 5 years of stage. So I've been writing for stage, performing on stage, you know, feature like an, I know, about like over an hour worth of like stage productions. I've been in other international stage productions as an actor, you know, as a support actor or as a voice actor, you know, 10 minutes of speaking and so on, as well as like working for other people who were like, you know, and this is all paid, unpaid, sorry, I should say. This is just like, because it's part of the church, you're just doing stuff for just for the love of it, right? Honing my skill as an actor, as a writer, as a director, as a producer, right? So I get down to Invercargill and I go join a church, right? And in the church, I hear about this lady talking about orphans in Romania, right? And under the Ceausescu, these are children, these are babies of journalists, these are babies of artists, these are babies of political prisoners, right? Who are just being tied to cots with a piece of cloth so they don't move around, they don't make noise, left in their own filth, because that was the state of it. Like these babies, they don't matter to anybody in the political system, so they're not cared for. And so at that time, there was this lady had been there and visited them, and it wasn't a big thing in the news, right? Around it, this was like what, 2003, 2004, and I was sitting there and I was like, okay, this is just sad. And so when I 4 years later, when I decided to do, because I get affected by things in a different way too, I think in a way that people don't get affected by, and this is just the way I am, right? And everybody has their own different patterns of emotion and how they deal with grief, how they deal with emotion, how to deal with sadness, how to deal with anger. With me, I'm usually turning it inwards. However, I realize that the best way to do that is actually turn it into my art. And so, and it's a more visual, more effective, more productive, I should say, more productive way of taking that emotion and chuck it onto paper, right? And writing it down, getting my emotions out. It's something that I've kind of, whenever I felt like emotional, I would write it out. I'd draw, you know, I used to draw Hellraiser type, you know, stuff when I felt angry or something like that. And there's art that all these art that I've done over the like probably about 30 years of my life are all gone, right? Artwork, ceramic pieces, like, you know, they're just all gone. Some are actually in people's hands all around the world. I have no clue where they are, because I usually just give them away. If they're lucky, they still exist. If, you know, most 90% of them are gone. They're destroyed. They're, you know, lost to the ether, right? However, you know, so when I came back and I had a car accident, right, in 2007, and I've mentioned this before, so I'm not going to go over it again. So which made it so that it was impossible for me to stand up for more than about 2-3 hours at a time, which meant that whatever I wanted to do, like in acting, like you know, like being film work behind a camera, directing, producing, whatever, I couldn't do that anymore. And so I just said, well, why don't I do what I've always wanted to do anyway? My whole point was to write stories, right? Tell stories. That's where my whole life is going. So anyway, so Christmas 2007, talked to my niece, came up with IndieGoGO between her, myself, and my brother-in-law, who we actually named IndieGoGO, right? And so, and then I was thinking about what do I write about this character? And so that sort of gave me the idea for like, hey, why don't I write about this Romanian you know, orphans that really affected me at that time. And so then I went and found an artist, right, who was over in England, right? I can't remember his last name, but his name, Burbeck. Yeah, Burbeck, Mike Burbeck. And so we started working on it. Like preliminary, some of that artwork is out there, stuff, and I've done some rework on the, you know, on the webcomic side of things. But later, I actually wrote a story called Templeton, excuse me, which I kind of wrote it as for like a John Constantine Hellraiser story, you know, with the Keanu Reeves movie. More people are more aware of the Keanu Reeves movie than actually the comic book character, right? If you're not in the comic book scene. So, yeah, I called it Black Waters, and then I designed a character and wrote the whole, you know, like I don't know, about 90 page film script, kind of like, and then turned into a, which is like a feature film, right? Hour and a half. And turned it into a script and then put out that I was going to do this. So I reached out to someone in New Zealand, and I said, hey, I would, would you be interested in working on this? This is a professional artist, right? Fantasy artist. And I thought, yeah, cool. And turned out it was going to cost me 20K, right? And this is where I'm talking about like the whole, money thing, right? It was going to cost me 20K New Zealand. That's basically a year's income, right? And that, a 20K and the almighty dollar, right? 20K to do a 90 pages worth of art. However, right, and this is going to the first point of the, the whole point one of the story, this the stream. And so with the 20K, I was like, oh hell, I can't do that. I can't. So I can't even afford that. I'm actually out of work. I'm on accident comp because my back is broken. I have injuries in my back, which is why all these live streams get delayed daily, because I go, okay, I'm going to do it tomorrow. I wake up and I can't move. Like I was supposed to go see Trap on Saturday night, which was organized on Wednesday by my friend. He said, hey, look, we're going to tomorrow night to go see a movie. Oh yeah, I'm not going to be feeling well tomorrow, right? So I know that. And so it came to Saturday, I'm like, it's about 2 hours from going out. I can't move. I stand up. I'm limping to the kitchen, which is only like about like about 7 steps away, right? And I go, hey, dude, message him, on Facebook. Hey, dude, I can't. Apologies. I just can't do it. Like, I'm just going to take some meds and go back to sleep, right? And so just lay there for, and then like get up, Sunday and like, yeah, still can't do it. Feeling really sore, plus my shoulders really messed up because mouse, because of the hand injury, I've got a sliced freaking tendons. It constantly is always in pain. So shoulders now freaking got the referred pain. All right, so no Sunday. Yesterday, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do that. Guess what? I've got artists like, I've got my friend, my artists going, hey, look, I've got all this work here. Come, I'm going to do all this stuff. I've got an entire folder of work, right, for our fantasy series, which is like, I was going to put this up later, but since we're on the, I'm not going to segue away from there. And he goes, hey, look, we got our fantasy series. I've got all the artwork set up for the pages, all 30, I think it was like 34 pages. I think it was like, it's a 30 page art comic book, plus about another 5 pages of a backup short story, right? Kind of give you an idea about one of the characters. And so I get like 5 gigs worth of like Dropbox. And I'm like, okay, cool. And then I get one of my other guys go up and go, hey, look, right, so I've got this page set up. This is what you're after. Yeah, cool, man. Love it. Go for it. Cool. Okay, I'll go in there. Ink. And the other one comes up with a pencil paste and goes, yeah. I'm like, cool, man. So I'm like stuck, I'm not stuck, but, looking through there, arranging the pages on my, on my Clip Studio Paint, which is where I do all my work, arrange all the lettering and all that, and arrange all the pages, make any changes I need to make, or even notes, and just JPEG it and go, yep, that's what I'm thinking, with the notes on it in red or whatever. Anyway, so that was yesterday, right? And then got to where I'd realized that I'd been up for 40 hours. Actually, no, I'd been up for about 30 hours almost, right? And then, so last night I slept for like about 12 hours. And so this is how my life works, right? And so apologies for all the changes to all the live streams, saying, hey, I'm going to be on and I'm not on, and I'm going to, that's how my body is. Can't really, and the work is when you work for yourself, it's all over the place. So it's really hard trying to set up a live stream on the time that I want to do it. However, back to Templeton, right? So I get a email. This is when I had a page called Rising Sun Comics New Zealand, right? Because that was my name of my comic studio at that time. That was what I was calling myself. And that got deleted and nuked when I kind of like tried to self-delete. And so I deleted that page entirely. There was something like about 400 people on that page at that time following me. And so anyway, so when I got to that, yeah, so I had a guy reach out to me from Philippines, right, for working on Templeton. And so we started negotiating a amount, right? And he just said, hey, look, I can do this for this much New Zealand dollars. I'm like, great, that's great. And so we got about 12 pages done. And this is something that a lot of people don't understand when it comes about people. And so like, I won't say like, like a third world country, but say a lesser, you know, less, people whose economy, is kind of like in a different financial state to your own economy. So America at the moment and Europe is kind of like at the forefront of where the money is at when it comes to like the finances, the value of the dollar, right? Or the value of the euro. So what I want to take you guys on here is like, look at, let me just put a title here, right? Value of the dollar, right? In reference to, hold on, let me get this right. I'm like trying to work over my my art tools because I was supposed I'm going to be doing some art, but looks like we won't get to that today. So yeah, so the value of the dollar, right? Wrong spelling, but you get the idea. So what is the value of the dollar, right? And recently, I've come to, there was a post by a guy over in on a comic book group page in art, artists looking for writers looking for artists, guys creating a comic book, and it's got it set up. The sad thing was that a lot of people who don't understand about the economy of other nations, other countries, poorer countries, compared to Western, countries whose dollar is very high up. So you take a look at this. This is like, let me bring that back over to, let me see, is that a better one? No, this would be a better one. So let's have a look at this, right? So at the moment, $15 American is kind of like around the minimum wage around New Zealand. That's pretty high up when you really think about it. That's $20 more from about when I was a kid at 16, 15, working, right? And a full-time job. I was getting around about $6.50, $6.90, right? An hour for 44-hour work. Sometimes there was like overtime thing when, if it was like there was a major stock that had to be made up, and I was working in a factory, so there's like a no-brainer job, manual labor work, right? So while I was there, there was about like all just teenagers basically, apart from two adults, right? Which was like the boss and the foreman, right? Which was his brother-in-law. And from Bangladesh, right? You guys have seen recently there was all these riots over in Bangladesh that are ousting their president. Basically stepped down, Sheikh Hasina, right? I think it was, who had to step down because there was all these students burning up the place, or there was people like instigators who were like beating up students and stuff, or trying to protest the system, where they were trying to say like the quota system and civil work. The only thing when I came out to comment about that was like, my thought was, if you're like burning down your country's infrastructure, your buildings and stuff, and you are seen to be the one who's doing that, do you think bosses will hire you, right? But that was my comment on it. Later I realized that there's more to it, and that there was other people who are like being put out there, kind of like trying to cause problems in a peaceful protest. And here's the thing. Let's have a look. Talking about Bangladesh, right? So let's have a look at what Bangladesh dollar is, right? Compared to, I don't know what the Bangladesh money is called, but taka, right? Bangladeshi taka, right? Have a look at that. Look at how small, right? Bangladesh taka as compared to an American, American. And the reason I'm putting this $15 up here for America is because that was what was being debated about, and a point of contention on the group, on the post that the guy who's an artist, who's a comic creator writer, wanted to do a comic, put it out there that he could afford $15 American per page rate, right, for an artist to work with him. However, there are American artists, all right, and I'm not going to name names. I'm just going to talk about in this thing, right? So there are American artists who are like, oh, yes, that's too cheap. Don't expect people to do that. The problem here is, if $15 US is an hour rate in New Zealand, that's pretty high. To a guy, who's in Bangladesh, you can do that page in an hour, and you're giving him $15 American, and you're giving him 1.763, right? 0.7676, right? 73676, whatever, right? For a page rate to do illustrations on a page. But because Americans, UK, these, people that have a high cost of living, right? Even New Zealand, we have a pretty high cost of living in New Zealand, right? And, a room, like a board, could cost you $150, right? So if we go, like, say, okay, let's go to, say, where are we back here with NZ, right? Say if it's 100, turn that around, say it's 150 New Zealand, right? So it's basically at the moment $9 US is $15 New Zealand, right? So basically then it's $90 US. Now, the only way you can really understand the value of this is how, like, you basically go, okay, how is this, how much is my living wage, right? And so at the moment in New Zealand, like I said, it's around about $21, $24. It's just kind of like a minimum wage mandated by the previous government, which, to be honest, I don't think it's that feasible, because even though your income has gone up, who's going to pay for that? Say if you're a small mom and dad shop, you can't really afford to pay $20 an hour, so you're basically working overtime, running yourself down, physically, emotionally, whatever, mentally, because you can't afford to pay someone, so you only have them in for a couple of days a week, or even a couple hours a day. So if your rent is, like, say in America, $90 for a room or board, whatever you want to call it, a flatmate, and you pay for everything else yourself, because that's basically what it is. It's $150 New Zealand to live on, right? And so with that, what this is doing is, I feel like this is why the title of the thing is, like, as Nobi wasn't here before, was talking about, like, how, what is the poisoning of the well, what this is kind of like what is really going to poison the well, because you have people from America and the UK and Europe who have a very high cost of living, right? And they have a value for that, and that's fine. I have nothing against that, and because, hey, like I said, we have a very high cost of living in New Zealand as well, and I would not have it any other way. Now, let's say this: go to Fiji, right? And this is why I think why I'm saying this is the poisoning of the well. So let's go to Fiji, right? Now, when you go to Fiji and you take that same $15 US, right? Now it's double, right? It's double what that American dollar is, even just a bit more than that. As you can see here, it's 2.25 for a Fiji dollar. So basically, you're paying that, and what is like a standard rate? I've got a friend who's an artist and comic creator in Fiji, and he's probably the only one that I really know in the comic scene, and he's amazing, right? And so and he's got contracts with overseas publishers and stuff because he's that good. And I've got New Zealand people who are in the same thing, working for Scholastic and so on. I mean, getting getting their books out with Scholastic and stuff, and also local publishers as well. Now, if you're friggin', if a single US dollar is $2.25 to $2.25 to Fiji, and this is going back 10 years, right? Maybe about 10 years. Last time I was in Fiji, a standard entry, no-brainer entry job in Fiji, like someone who just walks around and goes, "I'll sell you this, sell you that," is around about $2.50, $3, right? So give or take around about $1.50 US per hour, right? Now let's look at that with New Zealand dollar. So there was a time when New Zealand was $1.50 Fiji, and this was 10 years ago. And I'm going by 10 years. That's when I was there, like 2014, when I went to my, if I remember right, it was my my cousin's wedding. And I haven't been back since. We've been planning to go back for the last couple of years, just haven't got around to it. I've been busy for the last 6 years, with the convention, with comic books, like trying to get my studio set up and so on, and getting this work done. 10 years ago, it was $1.50. That's how bad it was. $1.56, I think it was $1.55. Now, what I'm trying to point out here with this is that when you're over in America and you see only American dollars and your own living value and how it is, you don't really understand the state of people's lives elsewhere, right? But especially when it comes to comic books, because you're swapping money for work, right? Which is always things like money for labor, right? So if you're swapping money for labor, and so let's get back to the US dollar, right? So it's 60 cents, basically dollar New Zealand, 60 cents US, right? So say you're paying about $50 or whatever. Let's just work with, actually, no, 15. Let's go back to 15 because that's what the guy was offering, right? So he was offering it for an hour's worth of work from a person, depending on how fast that illustrator is, right? He was offering an hour's worth of work for $25 New Zealand. I don't know what country he came from or was based in, right? And what the value of his dollar was compared to the US. Let's say he was over in, let's say he was over in, I wouldn't say he was over, let's say he was Europe, right? So say he was able to offer, say he was in Europe, UK, Europe, right? Britain, whatever. He was offering 11 pounds, right? Which is $20 US, right? But he wasn't offering that. He was offering $15 American for a page rate. For him, wherever he was living, right? Let's say he was living in maybe like a poorer country. Let's say Africa, right? Let's say South Africa, right? Where are we? Is it Bahia? No. Let's say he was Thailand. Let's make it Thailand, right? So he's paying basically 526 baht, right? And I reckon, that's like about $1, right? What's a baht would be like the value, whatever it is. He's paying a lot of money for that page because he can afford to do that. Now imagine, I've seen Thai, and Filipino artists. There was a recent one who was working for, I think he was working for Marvel, right? And he put in some like terror groups, you know, reference in there, and he was like promoting that terror group. And it was what it was what was point of contention where people want to say, hey, like he's thinking a Muslim Islamic terror group, right? And so Marvel had to apologize and get rid of those pages and like destroy a whole line of comic book issues, right? Because of public, and one of them back, right? Because that had happened in there. And so the guy basically, I don't know if what the outcome was there, but let's say, right? So he was from a country that's like, yeah. And so with that, he was getting paid whatever the rate Marvel was paying. And for him he was doing pretty good art because like the quality was able to get onto it. And I know you guys are going to say like Marvel's quality has dropped, and of course it has dropped. But also there is like the whole idea of like how, we can, talking about exchange rate. He was probably making, with that American dollar, whatever he's getting paid, say he's getting paid $50, $30, $40 an hour, right? He's doing really well. He's getting 1,000 Thai baht or Philippines, whatever that was. Let me just go to Philippines, right? Peso, right? So yeah, so he's basically, if you go, if he's same amount, right? He's getting it like around about $860. And I know a lot of people don't want to talk about, think about the economics of stuff and the financial things side of comic, because a lot of people don't really think about the business side of this this art form to their own detriment, right? If you're going to get into creating comics, you really have to know the business side of things, because you're going to be dealing with people and even, I know a lot of people don't want to like, they want to say, I want to deal with Americans because I'm helping my own country person, or I want to deal with Europe, and because however, when it comes down to it, if you are only able to afford hiring someone from, say, Philippines, or say Africa, and and that's all you can afford, right? You're not going to be able to really, really be able to do the dream that you want to dream of getting somebody with a big name on your work, until you get to that stage where you can afford to get a big name on your work. For me, I just, whoever, is whoever comes across to Rising Sun Comics that have contract with Rising Sun, I get to, work with them as a creator, as a writer, and as a producer, right? Of comics. I get to work with these amazing artists, right? Who are from all over the place, which means like now I'm like, I sleep in the day and and I'm awake at night because they live elsewhere. Like I'm working with a guy from Italy. I'm working from a guy with from Sweden, from Italy, and then there's a guy who's from Argentina, who's in France right now, working there, right? And so I also have someone from Brazil and American, right? A couple of guys from America. So with that, when we're creating comics, I don't really deal with the money side of things except for one person. And so whatever they decide to, come in and work with me, that's what I work with, right? And I don't look at the contracts or anything like that, because that's got nothing to do with me, because they have, they have their own dealings and stuff. So I think this is something it's kind of like is going to, it's by people pushing Western high value of living costs, right, onto like people outside of America, outside of Europe, outside of UK, outside of Canada, because these are like, in Australia as well, and New Zealand, right? Because I've been working on this side of things with foreign creators for so long, right? Since like 2010. So if you really, probably even 2010 would be probably when I really started. So like, say, what is that, like about 14 years now? I have a better understanding. I say hopefully, right? I'm not saying I have a perfect understanding. I have a better understanding of how the economics of creating comics works, especially when it comes to foreign exchange rates. And this is something, if you're getting into indie comics, have to be very careful about and very aware about, right? There are people who are very smart and who have been known to get paid and then take that money and pay less to a team of people to create that same page that they tell you they created for you, right? And so for me, I'm always like on my, you know, I'm always like chatting with my guys. I have video phone calls, video chats, whatever you want to call it, meetings, Facebook, Facebook messages, whatever. I check out who they are, where they're coming from. Even sometimes before they even get to me, they've already been checked out. There is also the side of this that, like I said, is a second point of contention, topic, right? Which was that because of this sort of behavior by, like, say, Western high living, I don't know how to put the right words to it, like people, high value living, right, cost, whatever, like, say, in America, like the five that I mentioned, like Europe, America, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, basically the Five Eyes. That's like there's like a spy network, right? And that New Zealand is part of. It's called the Five Eyes, right? International body of, like, people, government, spy networks like CIA and all that. So what I felt that's going to poison is going to drive people who are trying to get comics made to now go to AI. Cook it down, be well, and catch you later.